No?
It doesn't. Maybe that means a whole bunch. Welcome to Awakening Warriors, where we talk about life, love, lessons, and learning.
You're learning.
Is that right? Is that how you say it?
That's how I say it. That's how we say it. It smells so good.
So today, for those of you watching, we're on my phone, which we did the first few episodes with that, and ironically, even though we bought a laptop specifically for podcasting purposes, I feel like this image is much sharper. And I don't remember the audio, but I even think that's better.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty sure. Maybe just need to get a better computer.
That's fun.
Anyways. So today we're talking about being authentically yourself. Mm-hmm. Which, when I moved here, I was very intentional about that. Because when I grew up in my own hometown, and then, obviously when you're around certain different people, you act a certain type of way, just to basically fit in and appease and whatever else, so, when you hang out with your grandma, you're a certain way, when you hang out with your parents, you're a certain way, when you hang out with your best friend, you're a certain way, when you hang out with your wife, you're a certain way, when you hang out with your boss at work, you're a certain way. So, there's all kinds of, different versions of ourselves, right? And, it's just not authentic. It's we're adjusting and we're appeasing to other people in order to hold the peace, even social contracts come into this thing, it's because you're trying to either stay in a social contract because you're not supposed to be that way or you're not supposed to say that certain thing. Yeah.
Quote unquote, supposed to.
Yeah. So, and I've noticed and one of the reasons why this is being brought up is because I've noticed that I've been getting a lot of backlash, grief, I don't know,
it's just been
pushback.
In our space a lot lately, with you specifically.
Yeah.
Whether that's people saying that they appreciate your authenticity, or in having those conversations, because we've also had that, or people on the other side of that not appreciating your authenticity, I think, or maybe just not appreciating you, which is real, because that, like you said, when we moved here, that was your intention, was to just be across the board, you.
Yeah.
And now that we've been here for a year, I don't know if it's now that we've been here for a year, but we have been here for a year, and it's just interesting how within the past couple weeks, I would say, this has come into our space, or your space.
Yeah.
Our space, because it's us, but for you specifically.
And honestly, I was thinking about it in the negative point of view, but even you're right, even in the other side of things, in the positive aspect, people, appreciated it as well. So,
and so this video popped up for me that I shared my story, and this guy basically is talking about that exact thing. That when you are authentically yourself, there's going to be very love-hate about that. And he brought up the and when we people please and try to be have everybody like us, that's not real. And nobody's ever gonna love you if everybody just likes you. And so he said, just as much as people are gonna love you for the real you, you're also gonna have people that hate that. And the lie, he says, is that we're taught that we should get along with everybody and we should be friends with everybody, but that's a lie. That's not true. When you are authentically yourself, you will attract your people, you will start building your tribe from this real place, and then everybody else, and that's what he said too. He said your role is to be you and then sort your way through humanity, not to be a social chameleon, he said. And so when you sort your way through and you're authentically yourself, for you specifically, and I think we talk about this, and I'm sure people can feel that, but I think your personality is just really strong in general, so it creates love and hate. I think it's very one way or the other with people.
Yeah. Well, I just call it like it is, and I say what I think, and because I want the direct, clear communication. I want to know exactly what you're thinking. I want to know, what are your thoughts? I want to know that information, but most people won't even, even though I want to know it, they won't tell me it because you know, I don't know, whatever their reasons are. I don't understand from operating at that point anymore because, and I don't know if I ever really understood it because I've never, I don't know, I've always been a pretty direct individual. So, but anyways,
But for a lot of people, that's a hard
yeah,
thing to be around because they're used to just talking about people behind their back and not
Yeah.
being real in front of people and like
yeah.
walking on eggshells to just keep everything cool. Where you're like, you know, you don't
Let's
lie to
hash it
people.
out. Let's have confrontation and conversation
Right.
about what I did wrong or what you're doing wrong
Or what you
Yeah.
like about me, what you don't like about me. Like,
Yeah.
that you're not going to care if somebody's like, I don't like that you're kind of an ass. Like, okay, cool. Now I know that that's a part of me that you don't like, but like that doesn't offend you. Where not nobody, people have a hard time, I think, being real with you, even though you're real with them, which is interesting.
Yeah. Fuck, I just thought of something, but I thought of a concept and it was like really good, but apparently it's not necessary to say right now at this moment because now I lost it. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think for your side of things, like you've really grown into this because it's just what how I operate allows for deeper and intimate connection rather than superficial relationship. Like you struggled for a long time telling people what you thought. Even though you'd have like thoughts on this stuff and like how to help them or whatever else, you wouldn't say it because you're thinking like, oh well, that might rock the boat, and I don't want to rock the boat. And I'm like, well, that's not a real relationship then, because that's not how relationships should work. You should be able to express your thoughts and your feelings and like all my friends, like I'm just gonna call them out and say, "Hey, that's a fuck up," or "Hey, that's not right." Whereas you, in the beginning, you had a real struggle to do that for like years, and I'd say probably in the past like year or two, you've done a lot better. But even, I mean, it took you a long time to get to that point. Whereas I've always been like that for the most part, like ever since I can remember at least. So, yeah, and to a certain degree, there's tactfulness and stuff, but like I'm not gonna pretend I'm one way or another. So even like with when we're in a tizzy or whatever, I don't fuck around. Like I'm not. But just because we're going out somewhere or whatever, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm getting along with you. I'm fucking annoyed.
Right, if we're not.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I want to punch you in the head, I'm gonna tell you. I will literally want to punch you in the head because I want you to know where I'm at. Because then that's just like clear communication, and it just like I don't know. It just allows for to get to know each other that much more rather than me just like holding my tongue or whatever else. And there's a difference between being vicious and being like genuine or authentic.
Right.
Genuine and authentic are two different things, I think, too. But yeah.
And that's where I think people have a hard time with you is because they aren't used to the direct, clear, no sugarcoat conversation, that they think that you're being an ass or they think that like you're a dick or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny when Derek said he was like slightly autistic because my mom told me they tried to diagnose me with autism.
Yeah.
So
Another similarity.
I thought like, oh, that's why I like this motherfucker because he doesn't beat around the bush either. He just fucking says it, like, and I think
he definitely has more tact.
I agreed, 100%.
His delivery is much more.
Yeah. He also has a few years on me.
Yeah.
And
he just has a different skill set. Like.
Yeah.
Not that
100%.
you can't build that, but just right now his people skill set is much more robust than yours is.
Yeah. I have a lot to learn from his tactfulness and stuff like that. Like, I'm just not tactful. Like even when I'm doing like, so we're supposed to do like these quotes and stuff for Valley View, and like these people, like we're not supposed to give quotes over the phone. They're supposed to come and get quotes from us, right? And so like these people want quotes and like over the email or over the phone, and I'm like, well, we don't really do that, blah 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 blah. And then so recently, I'm not very tactful, so like I pass it on to Michelle. I'm like, hey Michelle, this response requires your skill set because she is tactful. She knows how to do the word play and all that jazz. And I'm like, I'm just not good at that right now. So I'm like passing the ball off to her because it's not my skill set. I will not do as nice of a job as she would at that thing. Same with like Derek. Derek is more tactful than I am. So that means, I have to I have to know where my and that's okay for me right now at this point, because that's the whole concept of being like an entrepreneur, and you know your own skill sets. Like, you know, like I know I'm not tactful. I know I'm like kind of fucking neurotic and like weird and whatever else, just because I blurt out whatever I say.
You're
because
kind of a psychopath.
Yeah, I know.
So,
It's like
I
the
think
third time
Spencer
you
said
told me that, and I told you I'm okay with that.
I'm not saying that. Somebody else said that to you, so that's why I'm just repeating. It's funny.
I don't remember who said that to me, but you're probably not wrong.
Or maybe not psychopath. Maybe you just said psycho. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. So you have to be like, it's, being your authentic self is just like, it's so much better for you. Like, and there's going to be, because I can feel the tension too, that people don't like that. Like, I can feel that they're like, taken back, or like they don't like it or whatever else, but I'm also not going to adjust myself just because they don't like something. Like, that's a problem with them.
Right.
That's their own problem, because I'm not being rude or a dick or whatever else. I'm just being direct and concise and intentional with my questions or whatever else. Like, did you do this? You know, like, okay, you did or didn't. Like, and then let's move on to the next step. Like, I'm very logical and analytical. I'm not analytical, I'm just logical. I don't like, yeah.
Yeah. But.
Yeah. So what about your experience in the whole changing thing? You know, like, obviously I've always been one certain way for the most part, and you've been one way, and then you switched the other way. What's a better route to go? You know, is it better to be
being authentic? It's more, well, it's not easier, and so that's why a lot of people aren't, because it's easier to just like.
I think they're hard in their own ways.
It's easier in the sense that it saves you from uncomfort, quote unquote, again, because I mean, if you're living from this place that isn't authentic, that is by default uncomfortable. But it's like being genuine and authentic and real with people takes more effort sometimes, especially in the beginning, especially when it's like new and different. I mean, I would much rather prefer to be honest and genuine with people and have that back. So
it's hard to find these days too, though.
Well, yeah, and that's why when people are like, you can feel it, you can sense it. Like, okay, this is like actually a connection. It's not this like superficial surface level.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's even like my like growing thicker skin and having boundaries and things like that. Because I just said this to you the other day. Like, I had heard something about these people not appreciating you or not understanding you and feeling like maybe you were like narcissistic and whatever.
I have tendencies.
And right, and we talked about that. And so I even said like years ago that would have affected me. Like, I would have taken that on and felt some sort of way about it and felt like either defensive or like bad for you, or like, what does this mean about me? Because like, I would have just had so much wrapped up into that, and I heard that and was like, okay. Like, for me, it's not that I like want people to think badly of you, but it's like in that video, it kind of gives me that like confirmation that like right now, okay, like those aren't our people, and that's okay. It's like, It weeds people out, and not to say that people can't learn to appreciate, because I think we've also, on the more positive side, we have heard that, where a guy was like, you know, when you first moved into town, like, I wasn't so sure about you, like, but what I think is interesting, too, is I think everybody's a mirror for everybody, like, things are reflected back to us, but
that's what I was going to talk about.
Because you're so real, stuff gets reflected, like, very, like, strong, and, like, no, like, it's black and white a lot of times, and so I think, like, when that's reflected to them, they're like, whoa. Yeah. And he even said that, because he was like, really, what I think it was is I thought I was, like, a really honest and genuine person, and then you came into town, and you were, like, more than I was. Yeah. And he was like, and I didn't like that. And so he was able to recognize, like, the things that were being reflected back to him, and then he was like, I like you. Like, I maybe not in the beginning, and I wasn't so sure about you. He's like, but you're cool, and, like, I like you, and...
Yeah. Yeah, and he's fucking awesome, too. I love that he's, like, self-aware at that point. Like, you know, and I'm not saying I'm better or worse or good or bad or whatever than compared to anybody at this point. I know that I've done a lot of fucking work, and I read a lot of books and, like, listen to a lot of podcasts in order to like evaluate myself and to be authentic and to be okay with myself rather than, you know, and that's why a lot of people turn to cigarettes and pornography and alcohol and whatever else, because they are trying to escape their reality. They're not authentic with themselves. One, they just don't like the life they live, and two, they're probably not being authentic with themselves. So they're trying to dull the pain essentially on a regular basis, and that's what ends up being. But yeah, I mean, me being like, I know I have narcissistic tendencies. I don't give a fuck. Like, all the greats as far as success have that to some degree, I believe. Like, you have to think you're slightly better than everybody else because, and but like I also justify it. Like, I'm logical. Like, I get up at fucking 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5 every morning, and I go to the gym. What Why would I not think that I deserve something better than that? Like, I deserve a better body. I deserve a better relationship. I'm putting in the work and whatever. So
Right,
I
to get
do
those
deserve
things.
that. So that, you know, that's where some of my my narcissism comes from, or I should say is supported. My narcissism comes from my childhood,
Right.
but it is supported by my habits and, you know, the work I put in. You know, when I read a book and I learn like, oh, okay, I do that. I am slightly I have narcissistic tendencies, or like I do that and whatever else. And then I expose myself. Like, I will admit that I have narcissistic tendencies. I'll say it a fucking 100 times. You know, like, I fucked up on this. I have no problem in admitting my faults. Whereas a lot of people, you know, and then other people will see me say that, right? Like, I have a narcissistic tendency. Oh, he's a narcissist. You know, I already fucking said that, bro. Like,
Let me just say, too, as a therapist, a true narcissist would never admit those things. Like, a true narcissist is unaware. And that's what we've talked about, too, is like, there are plenty of people on this planet that are narcissists or have narcissistic tendencies. People that we know, whether that's our family or people that we've met here, that have those tendencies that aren't even aware of it, and that's way more dangerous than you being like, yeah, here's my stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, for me, like, I have to be aware, otherwise I will not be successful. Like, it's not possible. You can't just think you're the greatest thing ever and not see your faults and then expect to, you know, like, I have to know my strengths and my weaknesses, you know, like, and you know, obviously I know them and I'm not to some degree, but you're always getting to know yourself better and better and better, you know, like, there's never, the journey is always a journey and the journey never ends essentially. So, but yeah, people see that, and then one, they don't like to look at it, and then I'm easier to criticize because I'm already calling out my own faults. So, like, you know, and it makes them feel better about themselves because, you know, well, he's got a problem with this or he's got a problem, and this is anybody. This isn't just me. You know, like, everybody seems to look at the is a Bible quote, right? And I was gonna make this post a while, you know, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago or something. Everybody likes to, you know, point out the sliver in everybody else's eye, but they won't look at the log in their own. Like, and it's so interesting. I'm like, cause I don't give a fuck about, you know, anybody else's shit. Like, unless you're affecting someone else's life, you know, like child abuse, you know, spousal abuse, you know, animal abuse, you know, some fucking actual crazy shit. And to some degree there will always be some abuse, right? It's not going to be a perfect world. Dad's going to flip out on the kid and fucking verbally abuse him or whatever else. But people also need that. You need that contrast. It's okay if dad flips out and yells at his kid every once in a while, like, because it will make him tougher. You know, he needs to experience that because guess what? When he goes out in the real world, someday, you know, coach, boss, whatever else is going to flip on him, you know, and then if he never experiences that and knows how to handle that life experience, and that's why I know how to, like, you know, like, fuck, my mom fucking got all mad at me all the time and would fucking yell at me and shit, and I'm like, okay, cool, you know, yell at me, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. So then when I went to high school and got yelled at by the wrestling coach or the football coach, I was like, fuck, you got nothing. Like, I'm gonna go home and my mom, you know, could beat my ass. Like, you can't touch me. So I'm more scared of her than I am you. You know, like, fuck, that's nothing. I always compare my mom to the Malcolm in the Middle mom. If you ever saw her,
Lois, right?
Alan Lois, I believe. His name was Al, the dad. Anyway, but, you know, like, it is what it is, and I just fucking, excuse me, I think people don't live in their authentic truth and like get to know themselves. They're always like switching and withholding and not saying things that should be said, and then they're so confused about who they are, and that's it, you know. And I'm still figuring out who I am. I don't know 100%. And I don't think anybody really truly does. But you know, I'm a slightly along the road on my journey than other people are on theirs, maybe. So this is what it is, and I don't necessarily care that. I won't say I don't. I do care to some degree. I will say, because I don't think I care. I don't care at all, because I can feel it. My tension tells me that I care. Like mentally, I don't care, but the fact that I get anxiety or I have tension when things, I still continue like the conversation, you know, but I can still feel that they're not receiving it very well. You know what I mean? Like I can tell it, and then that causes me to have tension in my chest, which is anxiety. And then, but I'm just like, fuck it, I'm gonna stick with it because like this is true. So I have to force myself through this thing, even though, you know, like, because I could just like, oh yeah, you know, blah 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 blah, and keep the peace and whatever else, and then like, you know, they'll never know what I'm really thinking, and you know, like, but that's just not, I don't know, that's not correct. So confrontation is healthy. There's nothing wrong with confrontation. I think in today's society, fucking, they really promote like everybody should be love, man, and peace and blah blah blah. So like they think that's the way, but the media actually promotes the other way, like hate and division and.
When you can still have love and peace and have healthy conflict.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, even in our conflict, like, we come back to love.
Yeah, for sure.
And if we didn't have that conflict, we wouldn't have as deep of love or care for each other. Like, that also helps relationships because it's real and it's authentic and you need to have those conversations.
Yeah. I have a really hard time talking to people that just aren't aware and then just shit goes over their head. Like in interviews now, I'm like wanting to ask them what their favorite book is. Like what their favorite specifically personal development book, but I mean even if they pick up a fucking book in general, it's better than not. Like when was the last time you picked up a book? Like that shit counts. Like especially if you're looking for a leadership role. Like when was the last time that you picked up a book? Like yeah. So,
one more point I wanted to make on like the criticism piece, because when we were talking to Ben, he said that, and he said, was that like nobody who's doing more than you will criticize you, and so that too, like when people have criticism, like people who are working harder, working on themselves, growing, reading, learning, like those are not the people that have criticism for you.
Yeah, and actually, I tried to. So I'm an employee, and often people do not get along in this particular workplace, right? And the one dude is talking about how the other guy goes back through his rooms and they come and, you know, do stuff in his rooms after the fact. I'm like, whatever, man. Just like you did your work, you know, like, and if they want to go back through and do whatever, like that's none of your business. Just let them. Like if they're not even saying anything necessarily to him, but he's offended because they're going back in their room in his room, even though it's finished or whatever. And I'm like, stay in your own lane. As long as they're not, you know, harassing you or saying anything, just let them go in that room. If they want to track behind you and do something, like, I don't care, whatever. You know, like, if you think I fucked up, like, you know, you're not even bringing it up to me. You're just going back there and fixing it. Why would I be offended or anything? Like, I just don't. So, yeah. It's interesting trying to, like, coach people and, like, human dynamics and interpersonal relationships because, like, I don't know, it's weird. And a lot of these guys, you know, are either addicts or past addicts and stuff like that, which is, like, a whole nother level of, I don't know. Of course, maybe they're closer to the rock bottom, so maybe, you know, maybe I can have more of an impact on them rather than people that never hit rock bottom and they're just like, you know, and they just in one ear and out the other, or over the head, whatever. So, yeah, being authentic and figuring out who you are, because you'll just live a much better joyful, prosperous life, I think. So, and then you'll attract those true people that you want in your life.
So I was just saying, like, the people that are meant for you will be in your circle.
Yeah.
It'll be quality over quantity.
Yeah. Like even Derek, you know, like it's so funny because like we hit it right off the bat. Like, you know, we talk about personal development books and Amway and shit like that. Like there's so many common factors, and I'd way rather have his influence in my life than somebody else's influence in my life that doesn't know anything really, and you know, like me trying to just like hold the peace. I mean, there's a lot of people our age around here that we just like that we don't really vibe with, you know. Like they're nice people and they're cool and whatever else, but I'm not gonna go pretend to be, you know, someone that I'm not just to get along with somebody else. Like, you know, there's like we get along, but it's not like, you know,
Right.
I want to hang out with you or whatever else. We don't share the same goals, dreams, aspirations, and intentions. Like, so, like.
And that doesn't mean, because when we were talking about the people that have difficulty with you, like I was like, well, whatever, like that weeds them out, and like good to know, because then I don't feel the need to like spend time. And you're like, well, like we could still. Something along the lines of like...
You were saying it out of like, fine, you don't like them, or they don't like us, so we don't like them type of thing.
Not that I don't like them. I was just saying I'm not gonna extend invitations. I'm not gonna like go out of my way to spend time with these people when they have
a problem with me or whatever. Yeah.
And that's why I was like, good to know.
Yeah.
Like, that will just change my engagement and effort toward them. Not that I'm like mad at them, don't like them, but like I'm gonna keep those resources rather than investing or not caring, but like investing or efforting into a relationship that's not real, reciprocated.
And I would say, you know, like, and I did say, I was like, well, we can still extend opportunities to them, you know, because they don't even necessarily know me.
Right, and that's what you said.
Yeah.
Like, they know bits and pieces.
They know, they see very, I don't know, small clips of how I operate, what I think, and stuff like that. And, I mean, that's fine. I mean, then, and if that's all they want to get to know, that's fine. But if they are open to getting to know, then fuck yeah, I don't mind getting to know them a little bit better, and you know, hopefully, you know, building a relationship potentially. So,
right.
I've been valuing relationships a lot more as of recently, within the past, I don't know, couple months, maybe. I don't know.
I would say definitely since DM, because that was something you had pointed out, like making connections with people there.
Yeah.
So that was June, end of June.
Yeah. So maybe my 2024 word would be like relationship or something. I don't know. I'll think of that word later. There's probably a good word. I gotta reflect on that. Anyways, so it just popped in my head, so we'll see. Wow, this is a shorty.
I feel like it was packed though. There's good stuff in there.
Anyways, I guess let's wrap this up. Feel free to follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram. Is that versed? Mm-hmm. Follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook.
I think that's what you said.
I said it the other way, I think. We have a YouTube channel if you're listening to this. We have a podcast channel on Spotify if you're watching this. Excuse me. If you got any value out of it, feel free to share it. We always want to try to help as many people as we can. This is a lot about documenting for ourselves and how our growth went.
And is going.
But also, if we can help people along the way, that'd be ideal, because people just need more resources as far as, and like real life examples, I feel like, because a lot of people just don't have like real life down to earth examples, and I like to think that we're pretty down to earth, and I know we're real life examples because I know where the fuck we came from. So yeah, but cool. Thanks for joining, guys.
See you next time.